I would say the field of genomics now it's in its second decade. Of course, major milestones have been reached, such as the completion of the human genome. And we are only beginning to understand on how much more is ahead of us, in particular in dealing with this enormous flood of data that's now being generated by the new technologies that are available to us. But I think the really big prize that we will all benefit in big ways from these insights that we gain will only come once we have literally sequenced hundreds of thousands of genomes. The Indian population has come from a very small size initially when people migrated out of Africa, and they literally have grown from a couple hundreds to 1,000 to now to 1.3 billion people. And this enormous growth in a very short period of time has resulted to create a lot of variation within the population. And in some instances, this variation is the result of disease that we now have to recognize, analyze, and to understand. I think first of all, the most important thing India can do is to build very good cohorts. And so India needs to develop an appreciation of the ethnic diversity of the people that live in India. And they also need to understand how all these different groups bring value to understand the genetic makeup of Indians as a whole. And then, once these cohorts have been built and have been recognized, they should also allow people on the outside to make contributions to the analysis of this data. Because I think it will take a very long time if India will only try to solve its problems within India, while some of the solutions are already available on the outside and in other countries. The Indian population is as different from the African population as are Europeans. And overall, the Indian population is the most similar to European population, which is also reflected in the Indo-Germanic language tree, of which the Germanic languages and also the Indian languages and Northern Indian languages are part of. And therefore, some of the treatments that have already been generated by the genetic work on Europeans are clearly also applicable to Indians. But nevertheless, I think India should create a large number of their own reference genomes. And then once these reference genomes are available, a population sequencing project in India will help to show which of the variants are just normal part of the population and which of the genetic markers are actually indicative of a genetic disease. I think the genomic labs in India have dramatically improved over the last 2-3 years. And I think in many aspects they are the same level as they would also be on the outside. At the same time, I think the logistics and the handling of very large number of samples is still done faster in big established genome centers that already have been operational for more than 25 years. The two big challenges in genomics for once is to create and manage the cohorts. So to have access to literally hundreds of thousands of blood samples, of tissue samples. And the second big challenge is not so much the generation of the genetic data, but then the analysis of this data and also to make sense of the data and to interpret it. My key interest in genomics is to understand diversity. And we have been doing this by working with indigenous tribes in Africa. And we're now also doing this in other parts of Asia, like in Indonesia and in the Philippines. But at the same time, I'm also very much interested to carry over all those insights that we learned by working on human populations on populations of endangered animals. For example, we can show how genetically diverse endangered animals like birds, tigers, elephants are, and what it means for their resilience to combat diseases. It is the understanding that diversity is very important, and we need to create a sufficient diversity within our own population, but we also need to make sure that the biological diversity in the flora and the fauna out in the environment is being maintained, and that the impact that human culture and populations have had on the environment, that this is being minimized, and we try to keep healthy genetic populations of animals and plants and environments that we cherish.